Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UPNradio.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rebel Hearts with Kristie Reeves. I am so glad you're joining me today. It's a very special episode today. I just had her as my co-host on the show with Jason Rebel. So people, if you haven't watched that show yet, go back because we did some amazing myth-busting about veganism. And before I'll introduce her to you, let me share you a little bit about some amazing technology I discovered and that I've been using and I'm really excited to share with you. The company's name is AmpCoil, and the mission of AmpCoil is to empower people to be stewards of their own health and to create wellness with their family and community. AmpCoil is a modern wellness tool combining a powerful PEMF delivery system and an app called Better Guide. Better Guide utilizes voice analysis biofeedback to determine the customized tones your body's asking for, then place these frequencies back into the body, emitting them through a modified Tesla coil, penetrating them deep into the cells. The result is that the human biology quickly begins to return to the balanced and harmonized state that nature intended. Microbes, metals, and toxins are neutralized by using a Tesla-based PEMF delivery system. The AmpCoil combines the right technology to cleanse the body and support nutrition and organ systems on a cellular level. AmpCoil combines scientifically proven technology to create the first customized PEMF wellness device made for home use for the entire family. The system takes absolutely no effort other than turning it on. Want a more in-depth understanding? Then visit their website at ampcoil.com and tell them that you heard about it on Rebel Hearts with Kristie Reeves to receive your first AmpCoil sound transmission through a modified Tesla coil. And people, I love the technology. It makes you feel amazing. PMF is an amazing, it's kind of like sound frequencies, and we'll have the founders of the company on the show soon. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what the AmpCoil is about and how it works and the whole mission of the company. So I'm excited to introduce them to you and on the next show. But for today, I am so excited to welcome Allison Melody, my dear friend. Thank you so much for being here today.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Kristie. You are such a beautiful ray of light, and just seeing your smiling face makes me happy today.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. Same to you. And you've been doing the Food Heals podcast for a while, and it's such an amazing show. And we're going to talk about the Food Heals podcast in a moment. But the main thing I want to talk to you about is because I've known you for about 8 years now.
I know.
I'm like, okay. and it's just so wonderful to have watched you go and in the journey that you have been on and everything that you've been accomplishing and doing. And you're such a symbol of someone who's been, really going for her dreams and making it work no matter what and becoming successful, doing what you love doing and really changing the world with it. So thank you for doing all that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's so sweet. And I think it's like we're working hard. We're trying to change the world. One day this wellness revolution will happen.
Mm-hmm. And I actually always like to start with the hero's journey. And you have a really specific journey that actually led you to doing what you're doing today with your parents being diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. So share with us a little bit about how that was for you and what, the biggest challenges were for you seeing your parents being diagnosed and going through cancer.
Sure. I mean, it's nothing that I had ever expected to go through. I had no awareness of health. I was just living a normal, typical American life. And when health scares get thrown at you, things change. And so things radically changed for me and my family. When I was graduating high school and going to college, my mother had multiple sclerosis. Mm-hmm. And so she was slowly losing, it was a very slow progressive disease where she was slowly losing motor functions and she was in a lot of pain and she had to stop working, and she loved working and get on disability. And so it got to the point where she was taking so many pharmaceutical drugs that was her entire day was taking a drug for the pain, which would cause a side effect. So then there was a drug for the side effect, to the point where she was in front of the TV all day watching soap operas and taking pills. And that was the extent of her life. And it wasn't the life that she wanted. And so she was losing her health and her vitality quite quickly. And then she was diagnosed with cancer. And so that's when things really shifted, because my family was on a mission to get her healthy. But we were in North Carolina in a small town with no awareness of nutrition or the fact that what I now know, that food heals or food can kill. And there's, multifactorial, many things that can contribute to disease, but I wasn't aware of any of them. And so the doctor said the only options for you are more drugs, chemotherapy, possibly surgery, and radiation. And
which
so
is
we went,
the typical route that that Western medicine, allopathic medicine suggests. Yeah,
exactly. And so we went through that. And as most people listening, I'm sure, or watching know, it is extremely difficult to watch your loved ones go through these treatments that rob them of their vitality, and they're in pain and they're miserable and they're unhappy. And so not only did I watch that, but nothing was curing her, nothing made her feel better, and I lost her to her battle with cancer, and I believe also to all the harsh treatments that destroyed her vitality in her body 1 month before I graduated college. So there I was wondering, why did Western medicine fail? And with all of the science and technology that we have at our fingertips, how have we not discovered how to heal from disease? And so this is when my path started. And so then I started researching, and this was before Google and YouTube had a million videos and how-tos on vegan was not a word. None of this stuff existed in my world. Of course it existed outside, but it didn't exist in my world and my limited knowledge and resources at the time. I'm 22 or something. I'm a kid. And so I started learning. I picked up a book about natural cures and the fact that disease could be cured if you made the body alkaline and ate organic food. And this was all brand new to me. And so I started lecturing my father and telling him to get off all of the pharmaceutical drugs that he was on, to stop smoking, which he was a smoker, and to eat healthier. And he kind of just shunned me off, like, I'm good, I'm healthy. If the doctor says I'm healthy, I'm fine. Cut to, it was only 2 years later that he himself was diagnosed with cancer as well. And so that's when I got busy, where I took him to a guy in the woods who was a holistic health practitioner, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is today and as normalized as it is today. And the doctor said, that my father had stage 4 cancer, but he had helped other patients heal their bodies through nutritional protocols. And as radical as chemotherapy and surgery and radiation was, you have to be just as radical with your nutrition and cleansing and alternative medicine therapies. And he said, I would like to help you if you're willing. And my dad went home and he sat me down and he said, I don't believe in this. And so for me, it won't work. And so the hardest thing I ever did was accept his decision that he was ready to go. And so we did the Western medicine thing, but at the same time, he knew he was dying, and I think he was ready to die. So I had to accept that, and, there I was. I lost my mother shortly after I lost my father. So I lost that safety. So that was, an awakening for me that I had to change my ways so that, A, I wouldn't get cancer. And also I had to discover emotionally and spiritually who I was and what I was going to do in the world, so that I wasn't holding on to pain, fear, regret, and grief. And that's been a process, and that's been over 10 years now, working on healing myself and also hustling so that, because when I lost my parents, I also lost the roof over my head. I lost that sense of safety and money and a backup plan. And so it turned me into a hustling entrepreneur, and it put me on a mission to help other people heal their bodies.
And I think what is so beautiful about your story, and I see that in so many people who have found their mission, that it often is connected to some kind of challenge or even wound that we have overcome. And quite often, and I think that is why your journey is so beautiful, you had this wound, losing your parents so shortly, first your mother and then your father, and then having no safety, financial support, or even the parents' love around.
Right.
And a lot of people go into that wound and stay in that wound, or go in the role of suffering. And what is so beautiful for you, actually looking at that wound and saying, how can I heal that? And how is that wound even maybe part of my mission?
Yes.
How can I turn this into something that is painful? How can I turn that into something that is beautiful and that might inspire and even help others who are in the same or in a similar situation?
Yeah.
And I think that is the beauty of your journey that you've been on. And I just want to acknowledge that and say, how incredible that is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel, you talked about you were stranded pretty much, having no parental support. Do you feel, or what was, having seen that challenge, what was it that helped you push forward in these moments where you felt maybe even hopeless or not supported? What kept you going?
I think initially I was driven by fear. And then I realized that wasn't a way to live, and so that I could achieve a lot and perhaps help people. But when you're driven by fear, you're living in anxiety. And so I had to turn that into being more driven by love and the willingness to change and to help others. And so that, initial drive, yes, it helped me because I was able to get myself up, pick myself up, and get back into the world. But I was also living in a lot of denial. And I was taking action, but I wasn't grieving or looking at myself from an inner level. I was doing everything on the outer level. And it wasn't until I went inwards and realized I have to heal from the inside as well as the outside that things truly shifted. And I've gotten to the place where I am today, which is not truly 100% healed. We're never done. I'm still working on it, but I have a much healthier perspective than I used to.
Yeah. And what were some of the tools that allowed you to turn within and look at what needed to be healed?
I love tools. Okay.
Yes.
So
some tools, Allison.
I want to say that a lot of people, their first tool when dealing with something like this is often pharmaceutical drugs. And when my mother died, my dad went out and got me, with no doctor's permission, because he had a prescription, got me a prescription for an antidepressant. So I did that first. I had no awareness of health at this time. This was when he was still alive. And it made me even. No highs, no lows. But if you were telling me a story, Kristie, about something excited, I wasn't excited. I wasn't sad. I wasn't crying about my mother, but I wasn't excited either.
Yeah, and you were not dealing with your emotions because it turns that off.
Exactly.
You're not learning how to cope with whatever is going on.
And so that was the first tool that I turned to, and I realized later that was a terrible tool. And I'm a very loving, honest, giving person, and when I realized I was turned off in almost a sociopathic way where I didn't care. I didn't want to be that way. And so I got myself off the drugs and I started to turn to a more holistic way of life. So I started with the food. That was a huge tool for me. First, I went organic. Then I started cutting things out like dairy, cutting out meat, eventually fish. And I found myself where I am now, which is plant-powered, which is also known as vegan. But then the truth is that healing on a physical level wasn't enough. I had to heal the emotional trauma. And that was harder than the food. For a lot of people, the food is hard. Food, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was easier than doing the deep dive work. And so a lot of the tools that I use to this day, and I used back then, to heal myself was journaling. Writing and burning. So let's say you're in a pain place. Let's say you don't even know what's wrong. You're not even mad because someone died. You're not even sad. You're mad because that guy, that a-hole cut you off in traffic. You're just having a bad day. Journal it out, write and burn. And so once you write out all the negativity, you can crumble it up. You can burn it if you're in a safe space to burn. You can flush it, whatever you need to do to get rid of it. Taking that negativity out of your consciousness allows a place for peace and love to occur. And that's where the healing is. And so that's one of my favorite tools that I still do to this day because People still cut me off on traffic. I wouldn't be as angry, like, oh, you know what, go ahead. I wouldn't be as angry if I didn't have something on a deeper level I needed to deal with.
Yeah. And I love journaling. Years and years ago, I did The Artist's Way, and I did it as a group setting. And ever since then, I really here and then redo the book.
Yeah.
But one of the tools I love is the morning pages. First thing in the morning, you sit down, you journal 3 pages, whatever is coming up. And even if you just say, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, I rather want to have my coffee or my mate or whatever it is, and to just get it on the page, and kind of what you're saying, whatever we've been storing in our field emotionally, energetically, you put it on the page and you have the ability to let it go of it. And even when I'm in a conundrum and I'm like, what is the solution to this problem? Sometimes by just journaling, it allows me to open up that space and find a way to resolve the issue at hand.
Absolutely.
So I'm like a big fan of journaling too.
I love journaling, and it often leads me into another one of my tools, which I know you practice as well, which is meditation.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of myths around meditating, and that you have to be quiet on a mountain in Lululemons or something, or like it's just so unsustainable to let all of your thoughts go. And so I meditate to music. And I have curated playlists that help me get into a deeper state.
Nice.
And I've done this at events where I take people through an inner child meditation, and we're listening to rock music sometimes, and we're doing breath work to some of our favorite songs.
Amazing.
And so it's not about being silent and not thinking. And it can be. Some people can do that right away. I can't.
Yeah.
So I do it through music. It takes me to a deeper place, and I may do it after journaling. I may do it before journaling, because a lot of stuff will come up. But that has been transformational for me, and it's something I can do for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be, I'm now going to meditate for 1 hour, set the clock, and everything's going to shift. It's like, hey, I have a few minutes before I have to go do this thing. I'm going to lay down. It's going to be on my couch, take the iPhone, put on my 3-minute playlist, and that's all. And things will shift.
That's amazing. And I love that idea, because that's exactly it. I think, that's why so many people are having problems, because you think like you have to do it perfect. You close your eyes and you cannot think any thoughts. It has to be completely still in your mind. But your mind keeps going, because that's what you've been doing all day. So I love the idea of meditating to rock music. How cool is that, Rebel Hearts? Come on. That's awesome. I want to shift like a little bit into how, because you've been kind of on a journey for the past, 12 years pretty much, right?
Yeah.
It was about 12 years ago that you founded your production company, Melody Productions. How did that idea about founding that production company come about? That I feel is kind of, for me, the foundation of the path that you're on now.
It really is. And, Melody Productions started when my dad was still alive, where I was just doing video production work for whatever clients I could find, weddings, local commercials, things like that, because I had been to film school. And so I knew enough to start. Yeah. But I also wasn't making a ton of money because my parents or my father was still helping me because I was fresh out of college, just figuring things out. And so luckily I had a backup plan. Yeah. And what happened was when my father passed away, unfortunately, his executor of the estate did a terrible job of managing the estate. And when his business had so much money and properties in a market that was crashing, she didn't know how to handle it. And thus I ended up he left me everything. I ended up with nothing. So here I am, orphaned, no parents, no sense of security, not knowing how I'm going to pay the rent next month, a few video production clients that come and go here and there. And so I had to make video production, the company, the biggest thing ever. And luckily, my dad was an entrepreneur when I was younger. He had a building company and he built houses. And then and then he went to law school when I was in high school and became a rather successful attorney when I was older. And so he always taught me to build a business and then have other people run the business so you could take the profits off the top. Still working on it, but that is that mentality has allowed me to create a business and never have a 9-to-5, which I'm so grateful for. So I'm able to keep my freedom. But there's so much hustle in being an entrepreneur. They say entrepreneurs work 80 hours a week for themselves so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else. And that's what I had to do. I started out doing online advertising with Google AdWords, and then I just, I had moved to LA after my father died to pursue film production. So I just had to go to networking events and meet people and give them a business card. So I started out editing or shooting here and there, and it enabled me to build a client base that I've kept ever since. And luckily, most of the clients that gravitated towards me and I gravitated towards were in the health space, public health, social justice, holistic health. And so luckily, I was able to build something out of nothing. And as I was doing that, I was also going through my own emotional and spiritual journey that we were talking about. And I started to realize that I was able to manifest money, and I was able to do this entrepreneur thing because I was great at being driven and taking action steps. But I was kind of dying inside because it wasn't fueling my soul. Some projects were, some projects were fabulous, and I'm still so grateful for many of them. But I wanted to next level it. And that's when I started doing Food Heals, which was my passion and my baby. And so first I started out blogging. I had a blog that no one read. I set up a WordPress site. I thought it was pretty, put some money there, wrote some articles, interviewed some people. But I had no idea how to get readers reading the blog, and I didn't have the bandwidth to write every single day. And I started to realize writing wasn't my passion. I love writing, but it takes me a lot of time. And I realized I like talking, whether on camera or on a microphone. And so that's when I started the Food Heals podcast, and that's when I just up-leveled my business and my life.
And that's when we reconnected after you said the Food Heals, because we hadn't seen each other in a while.
Yes, and you came on my show.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a good show. And, for anyone who's interested in getting their message out, how was it for you to start getting your message out? What kind of impact did it have on your own personal life?
So much impact. It was like, first of all, here I am, and I'm like having this awakening with food and with spirituality. And I want to tell everyone I know. Well, Kristie, as you know, many people don't want to hear what you have to say. So you're like, oh my God, you're with someone, they're eating a grilled cheese sandwich, and you're like, oh, did you know that cheese has addictive properties? You're probably addicted to cheese, and it could have, carcinogens in it. And they're like, I'm eating a grilled cheese, shut the F up. And they don't want to hear what you have to say. And so I had to stop trying to fix everyone and help everyone. And by having this microphone that you and I both have, I'm able to speak to the people who want to listen and help the people who want to be helped. And for those who don't, it's okay. I have compassion for you. And you don't need my help. And that's great. So I don't need to change you. And letting go of the need to change everyone in my life and show them what I think is the way. Well, a religious or cult could come towards me and say, this is the way. And I say, but that's not the way for me.
Exactly,
And so it's okay to have people say that's not the way for me. And I don't have to help them. And that's fine. So instead, with this microphone, we can help the people who want to watch us, who want to listen, and who want to change. And that is where we can have the biggest impact. And so the microphone gave me a platform to have a bigger impact. And when we get the emails and the Facebook posts and all of these things with people wanting to know more, wanting to share their story, it's incredible. And then it's led to other career shifts. Like I got a book deal from the podcast. I'm now a public speaker from the podcast. I'm doing motivational speakings in the U.S. and Europe.
That's amazing.
Never would have had these opportunities without putting a microphone in front of my face. And I did that, and I didn't have to have anyone say, you can do this. I did it myself. No one has to approve us anymore. We don't have to audition anymore. We don't have to have a casting director say, you're good enough.
You don't have to pitch to a network.
Exactly. Everything has changed. So there's opportunity for anyone out there with a message to spread their message in any way that they want. And there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs right now. We are living in an age like no other.
And what I think it's also, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And then what I also think it's so beautiful, because I've seen the people who've been on your show, and we're part of the LA Health Vortex group over here, like where we have our tri-monthly meetings where we all get together, all entrepreneurs in the health and wellness alternative business. And what I think for you, because you also don't call it, you call it Food Heals Nation. And for me, it's nation, like you're finding your tribe, you're finding the people who are on your wavelength, who are resonating with you, who you can support and who support you, where it's like, these people are speaking my language. And that's kind of what I see, with a lot of us, where we're like, we have, these ideas or these beliefs, or we have specific knowledge or interest. And not everybody is interested in what we're interested in. And it might be, and it's totally fine. But for me, personally, the biggest thing was to find my tribe, to find the people where I can have these conversations. I'm like, these people are speaking my language. And where I don't have to justify myself, where I don't have to be apologetic about my beliefs or who I am or what I want to share, but where I can just be myself. And I think, like, for you, like, Food Heals is kind of that tribe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about networking and building that tribe, because I was, so happy when I found my people. And it took a lot to find my people. I remember feeling very alone in the health space and talking about alternative medicine and the plant-based diet and feeling like I was alone and no one was like me. And then over the years, I just started building this tribe. And, we're so blessed to live in LA where there is such a tribe of people, but in every community, there's a tribe for whatever you believe in and whatever you want to do. And now there's online, so you can find your people in Facebook groups. You can find them on podcasts. You can find them on YouTube and videos. And so that's such a powerful part of my journey, because when you realize you're not alone, it empowers you to do more.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And for all of our Rebel Hearts audiences out there who feel like, I'm in this job, or I'm in this, whatever it is, I'm in these circumstances, I'm not 100% happy, I'm not 100% fulfilled. There is something out there for me, but I don't really know what it is. What would you suggest our audience to do to kind of see if they can navigate to something and find what it actually is that would make them happy and inspire them?
Yeah, well, I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there, I guess I would say, about entrepreneurs, where everyone's like, quit your 9 to 5 and live your passion. And yeah, I believe in that. But look, it takes time. And I love what Chris Guillebeau says. He says, don't quit your day job, start your side hustle. And so what that means is, wherever you are, find a little bit of time to explore and discover what that is. And when you do, and you find what absolutely lights you up inside, it can be anything. It can be painting, singing, it can be podcasting. I mean, there's so many things. It can be talking about juice, whatever lights you up inside, helping children, helping those less fortunate, volunteering, whatever that is, you can create something out of that. When you discover that, all you have to do is start somewhere. So Kristie and I, we do podcasts. You could start a YouTube video series. You could, let's say you don't want to talk. Let's say you don't want to be on camera. You can take photos and be on Instagram, and you can build a tribe slowly but surely. If you have money to put into it for advertising, put money into it. You'll grow faster. If you don't, just start building organically. You'll build a tribe of people who like what you like and want to hear more from you and what you're doing. And then you get this influencer status. And then people will come to you and say, I want to pay you to talk about my product. And if it's a product that resonates with you, you can make money. And so you can slowly let go of whatever you're doing, whether it's letting go of clients or letting go of a 9 to 5 that's not serving you anymore. And you can slowly bring in other sources of income and live passionately every day. You can be coaching clients. You can be helping others in whatever lights you up. And so it's not quit your job and then everything's going to happen, because that can be dangerous. And I would never give that advice. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who do give that advice. But it's really, it's a process, and it's been a process for me.
Yeah, thank you. And I feel like I want to do some myth busting with you. We just did a show with Jason Rebel where we did some vegan myth busting.
Yes. So
and with
fun.
you, I want to turn it around and do some dream myth busting.
Okay.
And because I feel like so many, again, there is so much information out there and so many paradigms that we've been living in, that we've been taught to believe in, that need to be transformed.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things that I was always taught when I was, when I was in high school and trying to decide what I wanted to do was, you will never make a living with being an artist, because I wanted to be a dancer at that time. Right. Being an artist is hard. It's like there's no money in being an artist. So, what it related for me was, you will never make money. You will never be able to make a living with your dream, with what inspires you. So get a 9 to 5 job that pays the bills, and then you can have your dream as a hobby. So let's bust that myth, Allison.
100%. And I understand where that comes from, because our parents' generation, during that time, it was harder. But they didn't have these devices, which are called smartphones, which have changed and revolutionized the world. Social media has changed and revolutionized the world. And so these days, whatever you're doing, you have to become a public figure. We're all public figures now. And I understand that can be scary. And that's why I suggested earlier, just start an Instagram page and take photos of what you're doing. If you don't want to put your face out there yet, that's fine. Wherever you can start. But if you're not online with your business, then yeah, it's going to be harder to make a living as an artist. But if you're willing to put your truth and your authenticity out there and be vulnerable in everything that you are doing, and not everything has to be perfect. You know, people are filming on their iPhones, walking around like, you know, doing selfies all day. And if you're authentic about it, then people will follow, and there is an opportunity for you to make a complete living out of that. Now, of course, there are tips and tactics and tools and strategies to doing that, and I'm happy to share with you what's worked for us. But the truth is that if you are authentically passionate and you're willing to put yourself out there, the money will follow. But you also have to get out of the misbeliefs and poverty mentality that you may have that has been passed on from perhaps your parents or past generations or from society. And so it's letting go of those misbeliefs that, oh, I can't make a living this way because of X. And when we let those go, we open up space for abundance to come in, right? And so it's all about the abundance mentality. But even people like Will Smith, who I don't know how many millions of dollars this guy has, says he still lives in a poverty mentality, sometimes thinking everything can be taken away. So just because you make money doing something doesn't mean you don't still hold on to that mentality, and therefore it could be taken away. And so it's truly about, number one, go inside and work on those misbeliefs. You can work on these by journaling, by meditating, by positive affirmations, by mirror work, by working with a therapist or someone qualified to do this work, an energy healer, to let go of that stuff. And as you're doing that, you're also going to start putting whatever it is online, okay? Putting on Facebook slowly, putting on Instagram, starting your YouTube channel, starting your podcast, whatever it may be. And things will start to shift, and they can start to shift very quickly.
Thank you. And I think that you totally hit the nail on the head. It's that inner mentality that needs to shift for the outer circumstances to start transforming too.
For sure.
Awesome. Next myth.
Okay.
The fear mentality that I'm often seeing, the fear of putting yourself out there, and the fear of, if I really share with what I really want to share with my people, or just in general what I want to share, people will make fun of me, they will ridicule me, or I will suck.
Look, they will. They will. I mean, they say you haven't made it until you get your first bad review. So when we got our first bad review on the podcast, I was like, yay, we made it. So it's transforming that, because you know what? We're going to put ourselves out there, and look, sometimes people are not going to like what we're doing. We're going to get negativity. I still get emails sometimes saying, how dare you say this? How dare you say that? And so look, it's not easy. You're going to have to let some things roll off your back. You're going to have to get tough. You're going to have to stop reading it. You're going to have to not obsess about it. But there are, there are people who don't like Oprah, right? So it's no matter who you are and what you're doing, there's going to be naysayers. And so you have to accept that that's part of the process, and understand that it's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are. Has nothing to do with you. What we think of others has only to do with ourselves. What people think of you has only to do with them and their perceptions of the world. And when you can realize that, you can give them compassion and send them forgiveness. And so I have to forgive the trolls. I have to go, that's not about me. And I'm not saying it's easy. I read some, I'm like, this guy said this about me. They called me a snowflake.
They're not nice.
Right. And so have that moment. Be like, fuck that dude. Oh man, this sucks. I don't like that. I don't want to be perceived that way. Have that moment. Get upset. Throw the pillow. Tell your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, whatever, that you're upset, and then let it go. Let it go, because it's going to happen. I'm not going to say, oh, you're going to be perfect. It's never going to happen. We can be the best that we're ever going to be. We can share authentically. We can be vulnerable, and we're still going to get haters.
Thank you. Myth number 3, or it's more like a pattern. It's not really a myth, because sometimes, again, I'm coming from, what I've been witnessing in my environment and in my own journey, because sometimes it feels like you keep going at your dream. You finally realize this is what I want to do. You find the different mediums that we now have access to, and things are just not working out the way I wish they would work out. What advice would you have, or do you have even your own story of what helped you to overcome these situations where you went I've been putting a lot of time and energy and effort in that, and something should be happening, and where is that something?
So a lot of times we have blocks that we're unconscious of. So sometimes it's about going inward and recognizing those blocks. You can do this on your own, or you can do this with someone who is qualified to do this to help you recognize those. And so when you recognize a block, it may be, I don't believe that I deserve the abundance, so that I will create situations where I cannot receive that. And so if you figure out where that belief came from, oh my God, when I was 7, I heard my dad tell my mom, we don't have any money, and I don't know if we ever will. I don't know what it is. Often these misbeliefs stem from childhood. So we got to do a lot of inner child work. We got to do a lot of healing of past memories. Sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes we have made every effort, and it's just not the path that's going to get us there, and so we have to pivot. So there are no mistakes. There are no wasted time, because everything is a lesson, and it's so hard to hear when you're in the midst of it.
It's so hard, yes.
Because I've been there. I've been there I'm still there very often. I'm always pivoting and going, okay, that didn't work. I don't know why, but let me go over here. And then sometimes when you've made 3 steps, you can look back and go, oh, now I see why it went this way. And that's hard to say, and it's hard to hear. And until you experience it 3 to 4 times, it's hard to accept as part of your reality. And so my advice is never give up. But if you're feeling a lot of pushback from a certain path, go inside and say, is this giving me fuel and passion? Am I going to keep pushing and I know I'm going to get through it? Or is this giving me so much pushback that it's time to pivot? And your inner guidance is wise, and it will tell you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And it's so true. Oh my gosh, Allison, I was working with a production company, and we literally had multi-million-dollar deals on the table. Wow. And they fell through right as our attorneys were signing with the other people's attorneys, with the financing companies. And it was so devastating for me that I actually had to take time out for quite some time and just do inner work. I'm like, I cannot do that again. This is so painful. And I couldn't, from when that happened, when the deal crashed, they tried to revamp everything and get it going, but it fell through a second time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And that was after 5 years of working on that project. And it was so devastating that I literally had to go and step back and say, I need to take a break from this. I need to push the pause button and just heal that wound. But also look at what you're saying, our unconscious belief systems. What was I taught when I was a little kid? What is there from the group consciousness I was raised in? What is there that, how did my ancestors live? Because epigenetic teaches us we get their belief systems. And I literally just had to do all this work of finding these unconscious beliefs that were blocking me. And as I was shifting them, all of a sudden things came pretty much out of nowhere. And the more inner work I was doing, the easier all the work I was doing became. And it's just like so beautiful to see how when we do the inner work, how our lives, our careers, our relationships start to transform.
It's so true. And I have someone who does this energy work, and she works on inherited DNA. So a lot of times, like we were talking about earlier, it can be from your childhood, but sometimes it's inherited patterns of I'm not good enough, or money doesn't come easily, or I can't do something. And so sometimes it's stuff that we don't even know that we've inherited from our lineage. And that's really hard to say, because I remember hearing that and being like, that is BS. I got enough to work on in this lifetime. I can't go back to past generations. But Lisa Thomas is someone that I work with, and she's a person that helps you heal that. And so I'm happy, I'll give you for the show notes her information. But that's been transformational for me to work on some things that were mine and some things that weren't mine, that were my parents or my grandparents that I'm still repeating in this lifetime. And so, I mean, I know it sounds so woohoo, but I swear this shit works. It's worked for me.
It works. Honestly, check Rebel Hearts, go back to the interview I did with Bruce Lipton, and I shared a story with you of how my ancestral and group consciousness imprinting nearly made my first short film crash 2 days before production. I'm not going to share it over there. You have to watch the other interview.
Oh, I want to hear that one. Yeah.
Food heals. What has been the most, fascinating, inspiring, most beautiful part of the journey that you've been on with Food Heals?
I mean, we've had guests who have told stories that they're just so vulnerable and giving of the dark times that they've been through. We've had people who have come back from suicide, or attempted suicide, excuse me, obviously. That's not what I meant, but we've had people that have come back from stage 4 cancer. We have come back. We have people who have overcome unbelievable traumas in their life. And that's what inspires me, because I have been through trauma and I have come back, but there is some trauma that is so unimaginable that people have gone through, and to see them standing today, making an impact, passionately helping others in such an altruistic, loving way inspires me to be better, and inspires me to be less selfish and less concerned with, you know, like you were talking about earlier, what other people think of me and the haters and how I look and my hair and all of these things that truly don't matter. And so those are the people that inspire me, just because I know that they've overcome something so incredible that I want to share their stories, and also their stories heal me and heal my listeners. And I think that's like the biggest thing that comes out of this, because it makes me feel whole and complete that we're doing something. We're all of us in this industry of health are creating this wellness revolution, and that's what I live for.
Yeah,
you know?
That is beautiful. And what is your vision as you're moving forward? I mean, you have so much on the table right now, from book deals to retreats and lectures. What is your vision? What is up next for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ultimate vision is to create a media empire of books and films and videos and podcasts, and, you know, have my own OWN network. And I'm sure that, you know, this is something that you would be creating with me. We'd be in partnership.
That would be amazing.
All of the wonderful people that we know who are part of this revolution. It's not like I'm leading it or anything like that. I'm not Oprah, but it's all of us together collectively creating the wellness revolution, and being a place of inspiration for people to heal themselves, mind, body, and spirit, just like I'm working on every day, just like I know you're working on. And so, you know, on the way to that, the little things are, I told you we're doing a Food Heals retreat. We're going to Italy. You are all invited.
Yay, join Allison.
Yes, it's June 2nd through 9th. That's at foodhealsnation.com. You can click on Italy and feel free to join us. Email me at info@foodhealsnation.com if you want to come, or if you have questions. And that will be that's the next thing we're up to. I'm working on 2 books, which I know I should only work at one at a time, but I am working on 2.
Yeah. Will you share a little bit about what the books is about, or is that a secret?
No, I can absolutely share. So I have one that's more memoir. It's called Shine Baby Shine, and I have one that is called more, which is more about recipes and healing the body through fruits and vegetables and smoothies and all that good stuff. And that one's called The Healing Kitchen, and it's radiant recipes powered by plants. I don't know which one I'm going to release first, but I'm working on them both in tandem, because I get inspired for one and then I get inspired for the other. So I'm a crazy person. I need to calm down. And then I'm working on Food Heals, the film, which is about people who have healed themselves of degenerative chronic diseases and really come back from something that a lot of people don't come back from. So and the podcast is at foodhealsnation.com. We're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, working on Alexa. So anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can find us. So that's what we're working on.
That's amazing. And by the way, I have to share with you, when you shared your vision, I had goosebumps through my whole body. My hair is still like standing up over here. Truth bumps.
Thank you. Truth bumps. I love that.
Before we wrap up over here, because we just got in the signal, we only have a couple more minutes left, what is your final message to our Rebel Hearts audience for today?
Whatever you're dreaming of, do it. Do it now. Don't wait. No regrets. Just start now. Start before you're ready. If we waited until we were ready to do something, we would never do anything. So start before you're ready and see what you can create. Like, my podcast is not perfect. I'm sure Kristie would say her podcast is not perfect, but we just do the best that we can. And we know that we're having an impact because people tell us that we are, and that's all that matters. And I'm not a polished speaker, but I'm on stages in Europe right now. I'm not perfect at it. I still fail. I'm still nervous. I'm still scared. I'm still working on myself, mind, body, and spirit. I'm still working on my diet. I'm still working on my meditation. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, start now.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie, for being here today and for sharing your wisdom. And Rebel Hearts, if you haven't watched our very, very first Rebel Hearts episode, go back to iTunes or iHeartRadio or YouTube and click on episode 1, season 1, episode 1, and will see Allison with her co-host Susie.
Yes.
And check out that episode as well. Check out Food Heals Nation. Join their podcast movement. Thank you so much much for being here today, Allie, and sharing your wisdom. It was such an amazing time.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristie. It's been a blast.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Rebel Hearts, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. I hope you are as inspired as I am, and you're really and even now more inspired to follow your dreams and become the change that you want to see in the world, because this is what the Rebel Hearts tribe is all about. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks, and remember to rebel on.
Shows that make you laugh, shows that make you think, music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.